Prateek.
Hey,
what's up, dude?
What's up?
How are you
Nice
doing?
to meet you, Sid.
Yeah. First of all, thank you so much on behalf of all the students, faculty, for doing this. How was your experience? How was the How was the workshop?
It was great, man. Like,
Yeah.
it's great to have a music school. Like, firstly, the infrastructure for music schools in India in general is like there isn't too much, and a school like SAM, the fact that you're like doing this and like focusing on musical growth for students is itself incredible, because the importance of community in a film school, in a music school, is so important. And like these are the people you'll be with later. These are the people you'll call for help when you need them, and community, that's the thing y'all are building and doing so well. And obviously the faculty, everyone's incredible. So yeah, man, everyone's very
thanks
curious,
a lot.
and yeah.
So I know you as, I think, the original guitarist of Gutslit, right?
The second guitar
The second guitar player from Gutslit.
But I've probably been in the band longer than the previous guitar player, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
And from there, now I hear you're working with, like amazing TV shows like The Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett. What was that transition like? Was it like a conscious decision you made, or is it like one of those things where one thing led to another, and before you knew it, you were like scoring music for these incredible shows?
I think it's the latter for sure.
Okay.
Like everything's just been baby steps. One thing leads to another, and you just have to listen to your inner voice. So at some point, I realized like doing the metal thing I did it so much that I was like, okay, there's nothing more I personally want to achieve with this. And I was parallelly, I was like working in, jingles, and I also feel like I always want to earn money doing music.
Right.
I want to be like more conscious about certain decisions. So one thing led to another, and then I was never really a Star Wars fan either.
Right.
But I found myself in a beautiful situation, really lucky.
Right.
For working with cool people who have made me appreciate that universe, and like just working on like cool projects with cool people.
Nice.
So it's one step into another.
Right.
Yeah.
So the jingles, were you doing it while you were in Mumbai and while you were playing with Gutslit?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was like, yeah, those were some dark days, but they were fun dark days.
Okay.
Because it's like I was so naive. It was like when I was 21 or 22. I was just like, I thought I could do it. And I had this drive in me and this confidence when I didn't even know music theory. I didn't know anything. All I
Right.
knew was metal.
Right.
But I'm like, for some reason, I just want to be able to do this thing, which is like putting music to picture.
Right.
So, I had a mentor, then Akash Sawant, who was a live sound engineer for like one of my previous bands, and he used to do a lot of jingles. One day we were just talking, he's like, hey, like, why don't you check out what this world is? I'm like, cool. And I saw them work to picture, and I'm like, fuck, this is like really cool, So yeah, like one thing led to another, and I lost a lot of jobs in the advertising world, but it definitely was a stepping stone into what I'm doing now. If that makes sense.
What's your relationship now with metal music?
So probably like a small part of me is always gonna be from the punk subculture. So like, it's as much as, even if I want to escape that identity and like do what I'm like fully embrace what I'm doing now, it's a little difficult.
Is that something you have tried to do, like escape from that identity of being like a metal guy now into this whole commercial world, so to speak?
There was a phase for sure.
Okay.
Because I was like a little fed up with the way the scene works. It's like you don't earn, you are so reliant on fans and merch and like writing so much of music, and people don't necessarily listen to it as much.
Right. No, I meant like as an identity. Is that something that you kind of wanted to not be labeled as the metal guy doing
No,
commercials?
I would say I never escaped that. I never tried to like force it away.
Right.
Because it actually worked in my advantage, my favor.
How's that?
When you come from something so underground and you're in something so commercial, people always are like, wait, what? This guy's a metal guy.
Yeah.
Like, what's he doing in this world? And because everyone's generally comes from the traditional way of like going to film school, learning like they study counterpoint and like Western classical music, composition. And I had this totally different background. And it's not even just like, hey, I was a jazz guitar player, I want to learn composition. It was like, oh shit, he plays metal. Not even metal like Avenged Sevenfold. This is gut slit, like death grind. So I never tried to escape that because I feel like it's what made me comfortable about being in that place. Because when everything around you is different, you got to hold on to your identity. So yeah.
Right. What's the what would you say? I mean, I know you've obviously lended your work to really big projects like like The Mandalorian and Creed 3 and Book of Boba Fett. But what would you say is the piece of music that you're most proud of, like artistically, regardless of whether anyone heard it, didn't hear it,
I would say like whenever I write music for myself. So like there's a concert piece that I wrote, with an incredible group of a chamber group called Celestina. They premiered like a piece called Rabal Kali of mine where I could just write music for music's sake, where it has nothing to do with picture or any of that. So that's like one piece of mine which I'm really proud of. And then a lot of indie movies that I score with my friends, it's where you can be very creative.
Right.
And then obviously like Gutslit's music and like personal projects is where it's at in terms of music that you're proud of. It's not like I'm not proud of anything that I work with commercially.
Sure.
But obviously your identity takes a toll.
Right.
And that's okay. It's part of the job. But I feel like there's still a way to kind of infuse what you do even there, but you're not fully going to be proud. So basically, Rabal Kali, Gutslit's record.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. What was music school like for you? Because I mean, I was there for your workshop, and you did your BBA.
Yeah.
And after that, you did a master's in music.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah. So what was that transition like?
Oh man, so all the odds were against me when I was applying for that program, because you need a 4-year degree minimum. My BBA was only 3 years. Secondly, they would favor students who had a music undergrad. I didn't have that. But I just worked for 1 year towards those applications because that program is what I wanted. And they take only 20 students in a year. And it's like got a 3 or 4% acceptance rate. And I was like, I really want this. So I just went ham with my portfolio.
Right.
And I showed them that, hey, like I have all these other things, And I also studied, like I tried to study what I knew the program was going to be. So I studied Western classical music. I studied sheet music. I started dipping my feet into that world.
Right. And is this stuff that you learned by yourself? Or?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. And then when I went into school, everything changed.
So when you were in Gutslit and before all of that, like you were completely self-taught, is that?
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Wow. Awesome. How much would you say, the music of your initial years, like Gutslit and Minerva, how much of that influences the music that you make today? And when you're doing music that's completely different, let's say, like a regular film score or something like that, are there elements that you're able to kind of pull out from there and apply here?
100%.
Yeah. Any examples you can?
Like an action cue, like metal is so rhythmic. It's like such a rhythmic genre. Like even when you write a riff, like obviously you're focusing on like trying to have like cool notes and everything, but the focus is on like locking in with the drums.
Yeah.
And like, everything has to lock in for it to be tight.
Right.
So I applied that entire concept to action music.
Right.
So it's like when you're writing something that's action driven, boom, it's so easy. Because you're like, okay, when I have a rhythm now, I know exactly what to do.
Right.
And like I've written stuff in such odd time signatures and everything. It works so well with like action cues.
Nice.
So I apply it directly when there's something very rhythmic. I know exactly what to do.
Right. Yeah, makes sense. I mean, action scenes having a metal influence definitely makes sense. Now, like one of the trends that I've noticed, here at least, is that we see a lot of these kids that are super into metal, and then as time progresses and as they start realizing that okay, it's it's not it's about more than putting out the music that I want to, but also figuring out music that people will accept.
Yes.
And things like that, they start and to a certain extent I think that also affected your decision. What would be the advice that you would give to someone who is beginning to make that transition? Let's say I'm someone who's been doing the metal thing for 5-6 years now, played all the festivals that are in the country, and now I'm like, okay, now I need to start paying my bills. Now I need to get into that phase of my life.
Yeah.
What advice would you give someone like that?
Be open. And that might sound like the most generic answer, but like when you started listening to music when you were young, chances are you were listening to music that your parents were playing at home.
Yeah.
And that music is not metal music.
Yeah.
It is in your DNA somewhere.
Yeah.
Other genres are there. You just have to tap into it with an open mind.
Right.
And take that with your life experiences. Like imagine what more you could learn and apply in this world. So keep metal with you. Keep it strong, but there is no money in it. Especially in this country, unfortunately. People have tried, for many years. Maybe one day it'll do well, one day it'll do great. But right now, be open-minded enough to know that there are other avenues which can be very fulfilling. You just have to open your mind creatively, be open to receiving stuff, and who knows, you might be like writing pop music tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. Why not?
Yeah.
Or electronic, or like EDM, dance music, or jazz. Like, okay, there's no money in jazz either. But like classical, or like film scores. There's just so many things you can do. And you can always come back to metal or apply it in all these concerts.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Yeah, music is like it's all the same. Like, it's just different colors and different ways of arranging and different aesthetics. But if you apply like principles, they're all the same. It's like everything has chords, everything has rhythm, everything has something. And chances are you've listened to pop music before, you've listened to like hip hop, you've heard an orchestral score in a movie. It's all there, for you. So yeah, being open is what I think.
Has the way you listen to music changed since you've gotten into this world?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would
So
you
it's a
elaborate
blessing
now?
and a curse. So when you study something like Western classical, you learn to listen to music in a very different way. In a way where you're now listening in between the lines so much, and you're like listening to what are the cool chords you're doing, and like you're listening to every primary color. Like, music is essentially what? It's a mix of color, harmony, melody, rhythm, right, for the most part. And then when you start breaking it down, you realize, oh shit, like now I'm listening to music differently. Which is why now I don't listen to so much of Western music anymore, because I write that all the time. I listen to a lot of Indian music now, because that still is a place where I've not explored fully. It's there, it's all there in the DNA, but I've not been able. It still feels like a magical place for me. There's a lot of Western music now. There is definitely a little bit of like, I know what they're doing, I know what they're up to.
Right.
So yeah.
Nice. What's next with Gutslit? I mean, are you still involved with Gutslit like full on, or
Not really. I mean, the record that's coming out, Carnal, I wrote and produced the record.
right?
Before.
It sounded killer, the one that you played.
Thank you.
Inside.
Yeah.
But yeah, hopefully we should be able to put a link of it somewhere down, and people can check it out.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I'm so proud of the music. Putting a lot of work into it. So I would say now I play a little more of a producer's role in the band. There are 2 new guitarists in Gutslit, and they're the ones who are taking the reins. So, and they've been doing it for the last 2 years, I think.
Right.
So,
right.
but I'm still involved in terms of like, because in many ways because I was writing and doing a lot of different things. Aaron would handle artwork, Gurdeep will handle like the business, I was taking care of the music. So now for them to have that transition, they're still figuring it out. So I feel like we're all in a transitionary phase where I was just kind of giving them the support for this record, and after this, hopefully, like if they call me for anything, I'm happy to help.
Sure.
but I can't. I live in a different country.
Sure. And what's next? With you next? Like any releases that we should need to be looking forward to? Any other movie, TV stuff?
Yeah, there's a cool DreamWorks project which I'm working on with my boss. It's like a lot of pop music.
Okay.
So we are like producing a lot of the songs for that. Can't name it yet. And then there's a Disney Plus movie which I wrote additional music on. That'll be out later this year, I think.
Okay.
And then there's a Paramount Plus show that I worked on. I did some sound design stuff for some friends of mine who are phenomenal composers. That'll be out this year as well. Yeah.
Nice. Awesome. Well, Prateek, once again, on behalf of everyone at SAM, thank you so much. I know the students really enjoyed it. Our faculty really enjoyed it. All our staff enjoyed it. And, this conversation was delightful, to say the least.
Awesome.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much,
Sid.
dude.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.